Desiree Truelsen was born a healthy baby at 6 pounds and 8 ounces in 1994. Now at age 23, she is confined to a wheelchair, unable to speak. She's been diagnosed with Rett Syndrome. Rett Syndrome is a neurological disorder causing the symptoms of autism, cerebral palsy, Parkinson's, epilepsy, and anxiety disorders.
It's a very spontaneous mutation in the gene that could happen to any little girl or any little boy. But little girls have two X's, and this is why often little boys don't survive very long.
It was shortly after Desiree was born when her mother, Angela Truelsen, and father, Keith Zimmerman, started noticing problems.
She was a bundle of joy. At about 6 months old, we started noticing some very small things that it was hard to really put your finger on it, but like maybe she would pick up our bottle or a sippy cup and she would try to drink from it and she would get a little bit and then the bottle would fall from her hands or the cup would be thrown to the floor. And she would repeatedly do this. It seemed like she was losing her hand movements.
We had to stop filming to allow Angela a moment. Recalling Desiree's last word before Rett Syndrome invaded her body was difficult.
She had started saying a few words, you know, your basic baby words, mama and dada, baba. One of her favorite words to say was her sister's name, Alicia, which Desiree pronounced Isha.
Angela says she noticed more problems during her development.
What she would do is she would cruise around furniture like any typical baby. She would be able to pull herself up and she would walk around the coffee table. But yet another little thing that we noticed is that she would never let go. She would walk and cruise all day long, but she would never let go of the furniture. Or if the floor was a different color, she wouldn't cross the threshold. Even when she was crawling, if the linoleum was different color than the carpet, she would not cross the threshold.
She says Desiree began to dislike what was once a joyful playtime of being tossed in the air. The toddler also began grinding her teeth. It was then that her pediatrician told Angela he suspected Desiree of having Rett Syndrome.
We took her up to UVA's Kluge Center, and she did not fit 100% of the criteria for the information that was known at that time about Rett Syndrome. So now we're talking about 1996. Most people that you spoke to didn't know anything about Rett Syndrome and never heard of it, or they mistook it for Tourette Syndrome.
Desiree's parents noticed at age 5 she was still unable to walk or talk.
We took her up to Kennedy Krieger's in Maryland at Johns Hopkins, and after 15 minutes of talking with the doctor and observing her behaviors, the hand wringing and the bruxism, they diagnosed her with classic Rett syndrome. And they suggested a feeding tube at that time. The diagnosis was very new to us and it was very hard for us to accept, so we basically took our baby and ran.
Angela says her family did everything they could to help Desiree. They even tried feeding her fatty foods, hoping she would gain weight.
She would get very impacted and she would scream in pain. And she was very confused. She didn't know. She knew what was happening to her body, but she couldn't talk to us. She couldn't let us know what was going on. She couldn't make her hands work when she wanted to use them. One instance was she was 2 years old, and I put some little tiny bacon M&Ms in her high chair tray. And I had already fed her a couple, so she knew what they were. And she was trying to use a finger grasp, a pinch-like motion, to pick up the M&Ms, and she would almost get them to her mouth, and she would drop them. And all of a sudden, she just balled up her little fist and started slamming them on the tray in anger. And I knew then, that was the defining moment, that I knew my little girl was in there. And that she was very intelligent. And she knew what she wanted to do.
After seeing doctors and specialists, Angela turned to her mom for motherly advice.
She said, Angela, don't ever let anybody tell you that Desiree's not there because she's in there. And she's full of love. I've never felt such a love like I do for my little girl and for this other little beautiful girl here. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Angela admitted the disorder has taken its toll on her family, but she hasn't given up.
I'd like to see a cure for Rett syndrome because I want my baby girl to be able to talk to me, us, and tell us when something hurts her. Or maybe if she wants chocolate ice cream instead of vanilla ice cream, you know. If she wants to go to the park, or I'd just like to hear her voice. Just one time I'd like to hear her say, I love you.
But Angela and her husband aren't Desiree's only caretakers. Her dad, Keith, and stepmom, Brenda Zimmerman, share responsibilities.
One of the biggest issues with Rett syndrome is the apraxia, which is the brain's inability to tell the body what it wants to do. Just the simple thing of me just reaching out to you and doing this. My brain just gave my body, 100 different commands for me to be able to do that. And with Rett syndrome, it's kind of like there's a brick wall there.
Brenda admitted she's very protective of Desiree because Desiree cannot speak up for herself when people ask what she calls rude questions.
I met Desiree actually when she was 4.5 years old. I'm Desiree's bonus mom. I like that better than step. I don't like the word step. And so I've never known a Desiree that had speech. When people ask me, they'll right in front of her, they're like, "What's wrong with her?" I'm like, "There's nothing wrong with her. She has Rett syndrome, but she's fine."
But there are times Desiree will speak out of desperation, according to Brenda.
Once in a blue moon, a yeah or a nah would just slip out, and it would surprise her as much as it surprised us because she wasn't thinking about it. And that's one of the biggest things. The more she thinks about trying to do something, the less likely she's going to be able to do it. I'm a very, very strong advocate for Desiree, and she has the right to make her own choices. She has the right to do what she wants to do in her life, and it's my job to facilitate that, whether I like it or not.
October is Rett Syndrome Awareness Month. Angela and Brenda dyed their hair purple, which is the designated color for Rett Syndrome. Another Staunton family, the Burrows, are beginning their journey. Miriam and her husband, Daniel, have a 5-year-old son, Clark, and a 2-year-old daughter, Cordelia. Cordelia has Rett Syndrome.
She had a normal birth, healthy baby, fed well, ate well, slept well, happy. At about 9 months old, it seemed as though she wasn't sitting up. She wasn't doing the things that other 9-month-olds were doing. At a year, we went and met with development at UVA and neuro. We went through some intensive therapies at UVA. We got involved with the early intervention program. They were great. Lots of therapies every week, and 2 months ago we got the genetic test back diagnosing her with Rett.
Still, she says she's grateful for the early detection of the neurological disorder.
In many ways, it's better to be in the know than in the dark. At least we know what to expect. She's a bright, happy little lady. She's a little love. And the exciting thing about Rett right now is that there is so much research and so much hope towards a cure. I mean, gene therapy has been fast-tracked. Cordelia has never walked. She's sat up by herself maybe twice in her life. She had a mama, and I think we had Bull at one point, there's very little language.
She says all of the money raised for Rett Syndrome Research and Trust in Staunton has come from family and friends.
The money that we're raising, it really goes towards this. They've got this 3-year roadmap to a cure. They need to raise $33 million. We've about $11 million in.
Cordelia is unable to stand by herself and is in danger of damaging her muscles.
I've just been denied for the 4th time our insurance for equipment to help her stand. So I am now facing a civil court case because I'm pissed, because I'm angry about it. Because it's ridiculous that this is the thing that I have to spend my time doing, is fighting battles to the insurance agencies. It's insane. Well, I'm angry for anybody that has to be denied the medications they need, the equipment they need, the support they need. Because I feel like our job to take care of each other.
The people who weren't going to help out, they've sort of run away. And the people who are strangers, who are now my family, is amazing.
Daniel Burrows works at night, which gives him time to spend with his children during the day.
I do most of the therapies, all the walking and the eye gaze systems, and I feed her more than Miriam does. Every time we have an attendant, they get frustrated, but I'm there all day, so I'm probably one of the better feeders. It's rough, But again, one of the other blessings of these things is that people show up. I never expected to have so much support. and at every stage where we have to come to terms, just like today. Today was a real informative day, hearing Desiree's story and everything. But at every level, there's people who look you in the face and say, "We're here."
He says trying to get health insurance proved to be difficult.
We had to jump through some hoops to get Medicaid, and I didn't think we were going to get it because I didn't think that she was as in need as she is. But everybody who helped us through that meeting knew that she was going to be in need. And when we finally got it, it was everything. We're still paying off the first doctor visit we had before we had the Medicaid. And as soon as we got it, we would have been bankrupt in a week.
I asked Cordelia's dad what is it he wants for his little girl.
I want her to walk. I want her to talk. I want to dance with her. I want her to get married and have kids and have a normal life and all that.
In Staunton, Elaine Rackley for Breaking Through.